Your friend has got a lot to share.
Well, we're back again. I can't believe it. You know, you never know who's going to show up, but we've always said as long as one of us shows up, we've got a show. I'm Steve Parker. This is Radio Friends again on the 19th of April. And I'm here in Berlin, Connecticut. And as always, we discussed some smut and gossip. No, some really good radio stuff. So finally we said, hey, let's record this one. So that's what we're doing. Nice group of folks here this day. So again, you know, just I know I do this all the time, but it's just so some of our friends who love to jump onto the YouTube have an idea who we are. So I know we all know who we are, hopefully. So let's just go around the room a little bit. Good morning to Pete Salant.
Well, good morning from beautiful Virginia Beach, where it's only going to be a high of 60 today.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. Dave Overson's here.
Yes, beautiful. If you
Okay,
peanuts,
Dave?
I'm eating peanut. Yeah, I'm okay. I'll survive for the show.
Thanks, Dave.
Wear a mask, Dave. Wear a mask.
Yeah, I am. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. I'm in Port St. Lucie, Florida, and it's about 79, 80 degrees right now. Sun is out. Gorgeous day. Got the fan on in the lanai and had my cup of coffee. So, and my peanuts. I got my peanuts.
And
What?
Oh, peanuts.
What?
Oh, got it.
My cup of coffee and peanuts.
Peanuts. Oh.
Peanuts.
Bob Craig is here. Hi, Bob.
Hey, how you doing, Philly? Still here, 49 degrees, clouds, and probably not much improvement as the day goes on.
And Judge Harrigan's here.
Yep, I'm at the home for old disc jockeys here in Marlborough, Connecticut.
Okay, I thought this was. Anyways, oh God. Dick Calt is here. Hi, Dick.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. I'm here at the Fairfield County Rock and Roll Home in Westport, where under the geodesic dome it is 72 degrees and sunny, and I could care less what it's like outside.
Morning to Bob Marks.
Morning, Steve. Good morning, everybody. I'm still here in Vero Beach, a 37-year escapee from the state of Connecticut. Although I still have a lot of fond memories, a lot of great friends in Connecticut, like you, Steve.
Thank you.
Who I had the pleasure of dining with, along with Angela and also Dave and Mary Lou Overson, just 2 weeks this coming Monday, right? That's when we did it.
Yep.
Yeah, we can't wait to get back there again too. And actually, I looked at some blueprints, and it looks like Angela's stepson is putting together. I guess in Florida, you better try for a pool house versus an addition, because that could take a lot of paperwork. So he's supposed to be putting some down there. Maybe it's a carefree small building, but we're looking forward to being able to spend some more time there. Primarily Angela, you know, I'll bounce back and forth, but she's got the family down there. Let's see. I think Bob Serkin's here. Hi, Bob.
Good morning, everyone. Great to be here.
Hi, Bob.
And Bob,
Hi.
I understand. I don't know if you'll say it or not, but congratulations are in order. I understand you were, depending if you're able to take the opportunity, you were offered an incredible job out there in Arizona, I believe. What's that, Bob?
We're moving to Arizona this summer to be closer to family, and been hired as an instructor at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State.
Wow.
And
Wow.
Great.
when
Very
I went for the interview 2 weeks ago with Dean Batts, you come up, it's a 5-story building in downtown Phoenix dedicated to the school. And you come up to the lobby in the elevator, and there are display cases. And the first one I look into, Walter Cronkite's pipe and typewriter. And I did a double take, and I said, my God, I'm on hallowed ground here.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it.
By the way, that's a beautiful campus over there
It is beautiful
Yeah.
campus.
in
It's amazing.
Scottsdale.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Congratulations.
this is downtown Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Yeah, but isn't their main campus in Scottsdale?
I believe so. Yes.
Well, that's
People get confused. People think the university, it's Arizona State is in Phoenix, University of Arizona is in Tucson. And
That's
people
right.
sometimes get those two confused.
Yeah, yeah.
like the Gators and the Seminoles in Florida.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Love to hear that kind of stuff. It's great, that it's as I've always said, even if you leave radio, radio's still in you. And I don't think, Bob, you've ever stopped for a second. And I know you've got some heavy duty stuff that we'll talk about a little bit too concerning JFK, because you've never let go of that. And that's
No.
important that you keep waving that flag to remind people of what's out there. But we'll get back into that. Ed Brewer's here. Hi, Ed.
Good morning, everybody. Like Bob Marks, I'm also a Connecticut refugee. New Hampshire accepted my passport back in 1974, and I've been here ever since.
Wow.
Good morning to Ron Pell, who's still in his new digs. And didn't you say you were dealing with some plumbing stuff, Ron?
We had a water issue with some rain the other day. Listen, new construction, you never know what you're going to get, but fortunately, the people here, the builders are Johnny on the spot, and they fixed it pretty quickly, so we're fine. Yeah, beautiful day. It's 50 degrees. I got out and did my run this morning, and I encourage everybody to get outside today and move. Just move.
Tomorrow is supposed to be in the 60s.
Yeah,
So
we had 70
week.
the other day. It's spring. It's spring. I mean, you can't stop. They can try as hard as they want, but they can't stop spring.
Ron, that'll all end when Mary Lou and I go back up north. We go back up to 50 degrees, rainy. Oh,
we
in July.
Yeah. But it's interesting because there was a thing on Facebook, and if you haven't heard the song, it's a wonderful song by Toby Keith that he did with Clint Eastwood in mind, called "Don't Let the Old Man In." And that he said, he asked Clint how he stayed so active and everything. He says, "Get up every day, don't let the old man in." And as much as he's been through, if you haven't seen Mule, I mean, even that's amazing. It's amazing because you see his performance. No matter what.
And he's 90. He's in his 90s.
93.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
It is amazing.
I saw that movie. He was magnificent. He was
incredible. Yeah. It's like, it's almost like with Al Pacino. He could be in a bad movie, but Al Pacino is always A+. No matter what character he plays.
By the way, I read this morning that Scorsese, who's 81, is doing a biopic of Frank Sinatra.
Oh,
he's casting it now. He's trying to get Nancy Sinatra's approval, or Tina Sinatra's approval, but he's casting it. And guess who he's got playing Frank Sinatra?
Oh,
Frank Sinatra.
Nope, he's dead, and he's still dead.
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh,
wow.
Wow. Awesome.
Now he's played J. Edgar Hoover. He played
he's too tall.
He's too old.
Too tall.
I don't know. DiCaprio's a good actor, man. He's done a lot of different biographies. J. Edgar Hoover one. He did
Howard Hughes.
Howard Hughes. It was from that show. That was phenomenal. The Aviator.
Yeah, it was. That was good.
Yeah.
And Scorsese doesn't make a mistake, so he knows what Leo can do. Let's see, and I also wanted to mention, and we'll move on, but that I interviewed a while back about the Wrecking Crew, Danny Tedesco, and he's got the First Family, which is a new movie that he has out about a lot of the guys in the background and the studio musicians behind people like Jackson Browne and James Taylor and that kind of thing. But now he's also working on his next project, which is a whole thing about Wolfman Jack. So
really,
that's his next project.
Bad.
Yeah. And okay, let's see who else we've got there. John Landry's here. Hi, John.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I'm still stuck in Middletown. Looking forward. About a month.
When you moving to East Hampton for your summer gig?
Probably end of May.
End of May? Okay. Yeah. So
Middletown very quietly has become the gastro hub of Connecticut. It's amazing on Main Street, Middletown, how many great restaurants there are. There's a restaurant that opened recently called Sicily. Best pizza I've ever had. It's right on Main Street. There's just so many choices in Middletown, of all places.
Ron, you said gastro. I thought you were talking about a doctor's specialty.
No, gastronomy.
Yes.
And
super gastro.
Jim Harrington is here. Good morning, Jim.
Morning. I'm in Western PA. It's 62 degrees and raining. They're calling for thunderstorms here today, so it's another great reason not to be here.
And how's your podcast Another Day going? How many of those have you done? You do it every day, right?
Yeah, done 600, over 600.
Wow.
Wow.
And
Oh, you have nothing to do.
That is that is
Did
a
them all in
massive
one day.
That's a massive undertaking. That's unbelievable.
It's been fun. You know, when you get into a routine, it's like anything else. It becomes easier to do the more you do it. That didn't sound right, did it?
Yeah. And then after a while, it doesn't become. After a while, it doesn't become easier to do it. You know, that's what
true.
happens.
Well, that's a whole other story for another time.
Ted Daliku. Hi, Ted.
How are you? I'm calling you, talking to you once again this morning. Good to see everybody from Southwest Florida, the alligator mating capital of Southwest Florida, Venice, where the gators are on the loose and in kitchens and in doorways and on the streets. It's a time down here.
And at 80 years old, you're still whipping around on that motorcycle. How's the bike running?
The bike, both of them are running great. I go to the gym after this today, and racquetball yesterday, and golf Wednesday, and racquetball Tuesday, and the gym on Monday. So
God bless you, man.
Talking about fighting,
Daliku
about
for
Clint
president.
fighting, don't let the old man in. It's a
That's
challenge every day. But if you don't keep up the fight, you don't win it. So
Good for you. Good for you.
Right.
No, that's wonderful.
I'm still not as buff as Bob Marks, though. He's my hero right now. This guy's pumped up. I'm just, I still have scrawny old man arms, but I'm working at it.
Oh God, I think
look at this guy.
Yeah, him and Overson are both wearing their Muscle Men shirt down there.
Well, I don't know.
I go directly from here to the gym. It's leg day today.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
I'd rather be riding a motorcycle. What do you have, a Harley?
I'm going from here to KFC. It's leg day today.
I got a BMW. I got a Beamer and a Honda.
That's a good one.
Working his legs. All right. Okay. I went around, but I sometimes I mess up on my notes. Do we have
We got a new one. Jack Lawrence is here.
Oh, there yeah, Jack.
There we are.
Hi, Jack.
How you doing, Steve?
Not too bad.
Don't say hi, Jack.
I know. Never yell that at the airport. Hi, Jack. That's the end of the whole thing.
Yeah, we're here in
my
Boston, not to be confused with Beantown.
Yeah, I really, this is something that we all remember way too clearly. And I will say though, and I went to Bob Serkin a little bit earlier about his new opportunity that he has to teach. But Bob, could you just, and I know I'm not going to tie this into anything conspiracy or any political stuff. I'm not going to do that. But you have such a tremendously long history with the whole JFK assassination. I think that's fantastic. And for all of us that were in it, a lot of you guys were actually in it. I just remember it as a kid. But boy, oh boy, and there's always new information coming up. But you've stayed on top of that stuff, Bob. How far back do you go with the whole JFK thing?
Well, I really started getting into it when I arrived in Dallas in 1972 and went to work for WFAA. And by the way, WFAA TV is only a couple of blocks from Dealey Plaza, and that's where the Zapruder film was processed because they had a processor that could handle 8mm film. So they rushed it over to the station, and that's historic. But it was in '72 that I started delving into the conspiracy angles of the assassination, the cover-up.
And that was where it all began. But you just sent me something today about some other stuff that's been, that you discovered.
Yeah. I'm on the podcast. I'm not there every week, but been on several times now. Jefferson Morley, who is a former Washington Post reporter, excellent journalist. He has for years been tracking the Kennedy assassination cover-up and conspiracy with a bunch of notable people, writers, producers, lawyers, and last night, they were talking about great strides, great progress being made by some very, very experienced, well-known lawyers who are working pro bono, trying to get released over 14,000 pages of secretly held documents in the National Archives. And these documents have been held because of the CIA, the FBI, and members of the Kennedy family. And by the way, the only member of the Kennedy family who has come out publicly in favor of the release is Bobby Kennedy. Other members of the Kennedy family, while publicly saying that they're all for releasing more, have behind the scenes thwarted that effort. So talking about very sensitive forensic documents, documents about interrogating Lee Harvey Oswald, Oswald's background, his relationship to the CIA, all that stuff is being held. And the efforts are being made legally to get this stuff released. And some of it is being held up by Congress because some of these records fall under Congress's purview. So that's very important because you might know that there is a new clamor for information on this, and especially among college students. There are many courses being taught in colleges, even high schools, about the Kennedy assassination conspiracy. Not
Bob,
only that,
Bob, did they lose they lost JFK's brain, right, in the autopsy?
Well, part of his brain was excised, what was left of it, at Bethesda by a group of pathologists who were not fully trained. They were just, regular Navy doctors. And that was part of the cover-up because what they took away was evidence of a second gunman. So yeah, that's what happened because, I think I've gone over this and look, I don't have concrete evidence of this, but if you read in, you'll see David Lifton wrote a book called Best Evidence back in the 80s. And he claimed that when you saw the coffin of JFK come off Air Force One at Andrews, on the other side of the aircraft came off the real coffin with Kennedy's body in it.
Oh my God.
And that was rushed to Bethesda where the botched autopsy was done.
Well, that I tell you, and it's something because, and because of your background as a newsman, I always find it interesting, because I know you've always been about the information and about the facts. And I'm sure that you've just kept your mind open to it. And I think that's terrific. Hang on one second though, Bob. I did want to say Ed Mitchell just joined us. Good morning, Ed.
Morning, everybody. Good to see you.
Morning, Ed. Morning, Ed. Where you at, Ed?
Hoosierville, Jeffersonville, Indiana.
I thought you said Hooterville.
No, I refer to this as Hoosierville.
And I've got, let's see, Tracy Carmen. Hi, Tracy. I'm sorry. I was whipping by before I missed you.
Tracy just stepped out of the room. Here he comes.
There he is.
Hi, Tracy.
His jingle dub was finishing.
Let's try it again. Good morning. I stepped out. I'm baking blueberry muffins and hard-boiled eggs in the other room. Good morning, everybody from beautiful Long Meadow. Balmy 54 degrees. I didn't get my run in like some people this morning, Ron, although I was at the gym at 5:15 and then raking up these stupid spiked nuts off the front lawn this morning at 7 o'clock. So
you're a busy guy.
That's good.
Yeah,
and I see Greg Simonson just joined us. Hi, Greg. Is that Greg Simonson?
His mic is muted.
As is his video.
Okay. Well, that's why I'm guessing.
It's him. It's him.
All right. So if we can, Bob, again, is there a lot to be said right now? I mean, or have people pretty much, just are they starting to look at you even, Bob, as somebody, yeah, conspiracy, and they're not listening? Or are there enough people that have opened their mind enough or have opened enough minds to really look at this?
Yes. More minds are being opened up, especially among younger people, which I find fascinating. And the other thing,
sorry, excuse me, we're talking about Kennedy's brain in an autopsy, and we're using the term "more minds are being opened up."
Oh my God!
Very good.
Very good, Ed.
Sorry,
Very
that just
good,
caught
Ed.
me, guys.
You can't let a good line pass by. You just can't do it.
Can't. Go
That's
ahead.
a great miss an opportunity like that, fellas. You can't.
Yeah.
I think of the external stuff like Dorothy killed Gallon and the other things that are kind of external to it when I think of Kennedy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing
Can
I
I ask a
wanted to
question?
add
Can I ask a
quickly.
question of Bob while he's there?
Yeah.
I heard an interesting thing the other day. I've always thought it was some kind of a conspiracy. I never really believed that Oswald was acting alone or acting at all, believe me. But somebody made a point the other night that was pretty good, that in the Zapruder film, if you believe that some of the shots came from the grassy knoll, that was just over Zapruder's right shoulder. Why didn't he? Why didn't the camera jerk at the sound of that shot? Anybody responding to a rifle shot over their right shoulder would react a little bit, and you don't see any kind of movement in the Zapruder film when that shot goes on.
That's a very good point, an excellent point, and I don't have an answer to that. But I will tell you that August 20th, 1978, when I was working for ABC, I covered the acoustical testing at Dealey Plaza, the recreation of the sounds of the assassination. The House Select Committee on Assassinations on a Sunday, they conducted these tests with a cast of some of the most prominent acoustical engineers in the country. And there was a motorcycle officer by the name of McLean who was very close to the limousine. He was really at the corner of the book depository when the motorcade swung left, and he had a stuck open microphone. And the recording of the conversation between him and the Dallas Police Command Post was saved on a dictabelt. And you guys probably know more about a dictabelt than I do, but they determined that there was no compromise with the dictabelt. It wasn't tampered with. So at first, there were really no discernible sounds on that dictabelt of any extraneous noises or gunshots. But when they delved into it and conducted a more finite examination, there were sounds of additional gunshots. There were 7 pulsations of sounds, and some of them they determined came from the grassy knoll. And the conclusion was that Lee Harvey Oswald would have been incapable of firing off that many shots that were recorded.
You know, the other thing is this: we have a tendency to look at the Zapruder film as being slow, because we see it in slow motion for the most part. But if you saw that in real time, it goes by in like a second or two. And so with hardly any time to respond if the sound was coming over the guy's shoulder. And Zapruder was closer to the cars than he was, like halfway down the knoll.
Right.
He wasn't up by the wall.
No.
So it was very quick, very fast. And when we see the Zapruder film, we see the slow motion of the head going forward, and then a slow motion of the second shot, which takes the skull off. It's I happen to think that it was multiple shooters. Didn't they a bullet ricochet over by the overpass?
Yes.
And they never talk about that.
Well, there was I think you might be referring to, there was a bullet that hit the sidewalk.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. And that was quite a distance away, am I right?
Yes.
They also did a paraffin test on Oswald that night, and they could not find any traces of him shooting a rifle that day.
Wow.
You're right.
He was framed.
Yeah.
He said it, right? I'm sorry.
One other thing I just wanted to add quickly is the Morley and his group and the Mary Farrell Foundation. Mary Farrell was a former legal secretary who set up a library in her home and was the archivist of Warren Commission documents. She could tell you off the top of her head chapter and verse of the Warren Commission. and she passed away years ago, but there's a foundation in her name. And what they're finding is that so many key documents have been destroyed by the CIA and the FBI. There's no question about that. And that's part of the cover-up.
I always believe the cover-up really began when Jack Ruby killed Oswald.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seemed like a real out of nowhere thing to happen. I mean, that was just unreal for him to get such close access. I know at the time people were getting far closer access to celebrities of all kinds than they do nowadays. The security is way different, but that just to him to just step out of the crowd like that with a gun in his hand and shoot him. I mean, that's just. And I saw that on TV. It was just unbelievable.
You know, people will ask, well, how did Ruby get down into that garage that day?
Yeah.
Well, Ruby, as you know, was a nightclub owner in Dallas, and he catered to a lot of police officers on their off time. Everyone knew Jack Ruby at the police department, so he merely walked down the ramp, and that's how he got in. Nobody questioned him being there.
Yeah,
Didn't they have a video on when it was taken on Saturday before they actually took Oswald out that you can see Ruby there? He didn't have a hat on. He was kind of a, baldish guy. He was walking around. I'm like, that's Ruby. And he was there, but I'm like, this was the day before they actually brought Oswald on, and he was just kind of wandering around. So, I mean, if you see the video of that, you'll notice him in there too. He was just there the day before.
But you know what's so beautiful about this, guys, and part of one of the reasons I wanted to bring up Bob on this kind of stuff is this is a situation where you talk about phone-in shows and talk radio and all that. Most people, I heard a figure one time back at POP that maybe 10% of your audience will think about calling in, and a lot less than that will actually call in. But if you say who shot JFK, watch your phones blow up. I mean, this is something. There really is no right or wrong answer, whether you want to get into conspiracy or that. That's why I think it's so interesting, Bob, that you do stay on it. And again, just that. And I wanted to point out, here you are. You're going into being, to teaching again, and at the Cronkite School of Journalism and all this. But you've stayed on it as a journalist and as a newsman. And I think the stuff that you've uncovered is interesting because of that. A lot of these people that that haven't done that or don't have that kind of connection, I think there's just a lot to be said that you stay true to that and have.
I appreciate that, but listen, I'm on the low end of the ladder, the research ladder. Believe me, there are so many prominent researchers out there who are far more qualified than I am and have spent far more time than I have. And when I get down to the Cronkite School, I'm going to be involved in teaching. This is a master's program in investigative journalism, the only master's program like it in the U.S. among universities. So I'm going to push for them doing a full project, an investigative project, a documentary on the Kennedy assassination and update it with new information. I hope that they go for it. I think it would be a great project for them to do.
Oh, I think it's awesome, Bob. And I just and I will say to anyone that wants to continue that conversation with Bob, please email him because I've spoken to him quite a bit, and I find it fascinating. And it's not. I mean, I deal with people that talk to aliens and Martians and angels and everything else. So it's nice. It's nice to hear it from a true newsman's point of view.
Bob, your knowledge base is so deep. And the words come out of your mouth so smoothly. You sound like you could ad lib a newscast. All of this stuff. It just was there were no uhs or any of that stuff. You really are excellent at that.
I appreciate that very much. I enjoy discussing it with people like you guys who have some interest in it, and that's great. It makes me feel well, and my words aren't wasted.
Bob, I have to ask you, what do you think the culprit is here? Is it the CIA? Is it the Chicago mob? Is it Washington insiders?
No. Here's what I believe, and people above me believe. It was a combination of the CIA, the FBI, and the anti-Castro Cubans who had it in for Kennedy because of the botched Bay of Pigs. And the CIA helped train the Alpha 66 group of Cuban refugees. And of course, it failed. And that's part of the reason why the CIA is involved in the cover-up. The mob hated Kennedy's father. They hated Bobby. They had a real axe to grind with the Kennedys.
Yeah.
So that's what motivated them, in my opinion.
Did the hitter come in from Mexico, cross the border, and come up into Dallas? That's what I heard. I heard they were actually they were from either Cuba or Italy. What do you?
Oh, it's France.
The shooter.
Yeah, I've heard Cuba. I have not heard Italy.
Maybe I'm thinking of the rifle was an Italian. Yeah. It was an Italian rifle.
I wonder if I just wonder if we've talked about this, I don't know, for about 10 or 12 minutes or so. I wonder if we could change the subject for a second and maybe come back to this, only because for me, Dick Kalt is here on our call. And this week, someone on Facebook asked me about the debut of KC 101 back in 1979. And I had an opportunity to tell the story about how I'd been given 2 weeks to change the format on the station from beautiful music to what we were doing on waves on AM. And so I kept checking the mailbox for the jingles, and our jam jingles arrived in the mailbox less than 48 hours before we were to kick off the station. And I realized I didn't even have a cart machine to play these things on, a stereo cart machine, because we were going with the beautiful music equipment that was all there. So I finally found a cart machine at the transmitter up on Madmare Mountain, but I didn't have a machine to put the jingles onto the carts. I didn't have a recorder. So a friend let me into WPLR late that night, and I brought my reel and a box of carts, and I got them done. So thank you, Dick Kalt, for letting us have the jingles on our first day, because we had a place to record them. It was fun sneaking in there too.
Well, it was something that I knew about.
Okay.
I was fine with it because, look, if it weren't for WKCI, I wouldn't have been at WPLR, because if I didn't have my 25-minute job, I would not have.
Right, the story which you have told, yeah.
But also, my view is we're all in this together, and we don't have to compete. We have audience. We all have our audience segments, and I know it's not easy to pull these things together, especially a new format. So, I was asked about whether I had a problem with it, and I said, just do whatever you need to do. And I'm glad it all worked out.
Well, thank you. And I had no idea
thank
you even
for
knew.
making that comment, though.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as we have Dick here too, and I heard about the passing of Dickie Betts.
Dickie Betts.
Yep.
Yes.
That's got to be something too, Dick. I mean, obviously, the Allman Brothers played such a high point in everything with PLR, a lot of the AOR, and then crossed over to top 40.
Yes, and Dickie had been up to the studio on a few occasions. Of course, it was the passing of not Greg, but his brother, and Dwayne. That was the big story. But Dickie was the music behind the music. I mean, the man could play guitar like nobody, and he just had the mentality, the musical mentality for it. And he will be missed, because he also impacted so many other performers, and he's getting his just desserts in terms of getting the recognition that he deserves for what he contributed to our art form.
Now, Dick,
it wasn't too long ago that he performed still. He did a couple of specialty gigs with his son's band, Southern Hospitality, and
yes,
also the Allman Betts band, and he performed right here in Sarasota County where he lived. He lived on Lido Key, I think, just outside of Sarasota, and up until probably last year is when he really started to decline. But before that, he had done a couple of just jump in guest spots with his son's band and with other people when they performed at Blues Fest down here. This is really cool.
And
Go
if you
ahead, Dick.
talked, yeah, if you talked to him and had a conversation, he sounded like in a conversation what the Allman Brothers sounded like musically. And the sense was that he was a true Southern musician with a real feel for what I used to call fried chicken rock, but nonetheless a real feel for the music, but also had a wide range. His ear had a very wide range, and he was a real fundamental element in the success of that group.
Well, I tell you, it's amazing, when I think about those days, Dick, how many, when you go back, and I'm not trying to have you be braggadocious or anything else, but PLR must have played a huge part in AOR with breaking a lot of music, right?
Well, we did break a lot of music. We also, it was a lot of new groups that the labels wanted to get a response about. And what it did for, I saw an advantage here in which, as you built a relationship with the A&R people, and they were, their responsibility was to get their new product on the air. We worked with them, and in return, they gave me what I needed when I needed it. Things like, bringing in Fleetwood Mac for Trod Nozzle, or Steppenwolf for the Raspberries, or the others. It was a very, very good relationship, but we weren't afraid. I mean, listen, if we played something to our group and we said, "Oh, this really sucks," I would say, "Well, maybe we think it sucks, but it's possible if you play it one time in the right context with some other music that makes sense. Let's find out if the audience says it sucks, or maybe there's something here we're not really getting." But you're not really driving a lot of audience away when you experiment, because a lot of listeners came there because you experimented.
It is interesting though when you think about, I can remember hearing stories like, with Merv Ammells and other guys, of course everybody wanted the Beatles, they want the Beach Boys. However, if you're taking that, you got to take this and you got to play that. I think a lot of people didn't understand or didn't know, even me, that yeah, as a promo guy, yeah, anybody could get the Beatles, the Beach Boys, everything, get that played, but what about this guy or that woman? Also, congratulations in order, 86 years old for Dick Robinson, and I noted
Mazel tov.
They just had a tremendous birthday party for him, just a handful of people, him and his family and some friends, but they went down to the Carlisle. And Marilyn May actually was one that was there that was singing for him, which was
wow.
And he looked amazing.
He still does, and
that's great.
He's been through some stuff. He was also at the a few weeks ago at the Red and Black Ball, which is a giant event they do as a fundraiser for Hartford Healthcare every year at the Bushnell, and he looked terrific there. So it's nice to see that Dick is I'm sure he's being very selective about where he goes. But I know that he has expressed interest with coming on here, so I'm going to stay on top of that between him and Jimmy. But 86, and oh my God, just so wonderful, and it really is. It says a lot about the man. That's a perfect example of don't let the old man in, because he sure as hell won't do that. But so congratulations for people that are listening that aren't able to be here on this YouTube. But
well, with medical science, 86 is the new 83.
Hey Steve, I want to throw out a name for you and see if anybody else remember this. Klaatu.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Remember Klaatu? That was a Charlie original. That was
I remember that. They were like,
baby,
they were like,
I was on the
could this
air.
be the
I was on
Beatles,
the
but
air
don't
when
say that. Yeah.
he pulled off that promotion.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
And Merv Ammells never forgot it either. But to say is
we had the Newington Radio League come in because they had the supposedly
the American Radio Relay League.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the ham operators?
Yeah, the ham operator came in because they were doing code on there and they wanted them to get that transferred. And I remember having to, take the record and then play it backwards. And oh
yeah.
God, it was it was exciting. It really was. It was an exciting time there, and you didn't realize you're part of history there. And it was. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing you mentioned a name from the past, Merv Ammells. I used to see him all the time. Loved Merv. But he used to get so mad if I wouldn't add a record. He'd say, you need an act of Congress to get a record on your station.
It's a hit. God damn it, it's a hit. He would yell that
the building. Oh, and you would hear them all over the station. If you didn't have the door closed, you'd hear them.
He used to get mad. He'd say, I'm going to have a heart attack right in your office. I'd say, no, take it over to TRY. Do it there.
I used to love, when the Walkman first came out, he was great. He came to the radio station, and I think he had Angel in the Morning was the song that he had on there, which was one of his new hits, or hit to be. But he got everybody to listen to that record because he had the brand new Walkman that nobody had heard.
Juice Newton.
He used to basically his wife had a nickname for him. She used to call him the Jewish Superman because he was always in phone booths all over the place calling stations on the side of the road and called somebody, stop on the side of the road somewhere else and call somebody.
I went over to Merv's house to work on his stereo system, and now I know why he kept yelling all the time. His wife was deaf, and he would talk to Sylvia. Sylvia, I gotta get this, and like. She was deaf, and that's why he always spoke loud and was very boisterous to that. But
he'd probably argue that with you too, Dave.
Yeah.
We're in a really nice restaurant one evening, and a really nice place. He took me to dinner, and he was mad because he wouldn't have the record, and he's yelling. I'm like, Merv, we're in a nice restaurant. Please bring it down a couple of notches, because he was just like going to town there.
Yeah, we have during the last, literally down to the very final days. Merv and I would get together and, you're funny, not as funny as your old man. He would always say that to me. And of course he lived in Windsor, but I will tell you, I lied a couple of times. One time was to lie into Hartford Hospital to say that he was my Uncle Merv because Sylvia was concerned about him. And he had been taken by ambulance, I think from one of the rehab places because he was having some issues. And I said, do you want me to go down and check on him? And I lied my way into the emergency room, and I was standing there with him, and he wasn't conscious. And the interesting thing was, the doctor comes over to me and says, I believe these are his final hours. You should get a hold of the family. I didn't know where the hell to begin. I didn't know all the kids and everything, but we did connect, I think, through Sylvia and everything else. We got Sylvia down there, and they were talking about his when they did his EKG and everything, and Sylvia and Merv always would brag about this. Sylvia said, don't forget his heart is in the other side of his chest. And that was the problem. They weren't hearing it. So
that's the truth.
Yep. And he would always say he had to go to Boston to see a certain cardiologist because his heart, what is it? Is it normally on the right? And he would say his was on the left, or
it's normally on the left.
Opposite.
Yeah. So it was really interesting. So a young woman came down who was a doctor, and she ordered another EKG. And it came back and they said it was the same. And she said to the woman that did the EKG, did you take a right side EKG? So then they did it. And they detected it, and she goes, if that other doctor will release him, I've got a room at the ICU, and we can help him out. And that was how close it was. So, and Sylvia, God bless him. First of all, Merv never took off his jacket, like his Iron Maiden jacket, 90 years old, never took it off. And Sylvia had probably one of the best collections of Beatle t-shirts you ever saw that usually went down to her knees. But it's a hit. God damn it, it's a hit. Yeah.
What was the year that he passed? Do you recall?
August 21st, 2010.
Yeah.
Yep. I just looked it up too. There you go.
Wow. Yeah, but and we lost Sylvia shortly after, but Sylvia was amazing,
and he was 89. He was 89.
Really?
Yep.
Going
well,
strong.
I'll tell you, when he came into the station, we all knew he was there.
That's for sure.
And
he had this crazy record called Shaving Cream. Did anybody ever get a hold of that record?
Oh yeah, we got it.
Dave Oversee knows that. Dave Overson knows that recording quite well.
Oh yeah.
Well, when you were talking about Sylvia, I kept thinking of Sylvia's mother.
Oh
I
God.
was thinking the same thing, Dick.
Yeah.
How did it go for Gordon Weingarth?
It was really moving. We had probably, I'd say 30, 35 people.
Wow.
A lot of people had something to say. It was wonderful getting together, although it was not, I did not care much for the reason, of course, but we all had such wonderful memories of Gordon and a lot of Hartford radio talk, you know, because of his career at HCN, and then also coming back to CRN, but he was loved and well remembered. The only thing I will say, and this is an editorial piece, I just was very upset with the fact that he had passed away a considerable amount of time before we found out, after all the time that we worked to really help him in his later years, because he had a very, very hard time. But it was a very, very warm tribute to him, and no one deserved it better than he did.
And you know something, Dick, when you mention that, I don't know anything about his personal life, but it's very possible that maybe his family wasn't even aware of just how much he was loved and how much he was missed, and maybe that was why, you know, that they were quiet about things. But who knows? I mean, I'm just glad that he did get that.
He could have been himself quiet about it. He didn't. He may have said,
I
don't want to.
Yeah, he would never want to admit that because he was resistant. There were times we had set him up with a Jewish family service, so he'd have a place and also perhaps get a job. And we talked to him all the time, and then it was crickets for about 6 months before we heard anything. But the only other point I'll make is that I know that his relationship with his ex-wife and his son had deteriorated substantially, and that may have played a role. But it was sad, and yet at the same time, it was very warm and very well deserved.
Well,
Took the
thank
radio
you.
people to bring it together.
Yeah, and also we made sure to also remember Country Paul.
Oh, good.
Absolutely. And as I said, we had a good representation of Hartford at the meeting as well. I'm so pleased that we were able to pull it all together. And we had people that I hadn't seen in more than 40 years. You remember Debbie Gould?
Oh yeah, sure. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. She was all kinds of people, but
a lot of stories about Debbie.
That's what it was.
Oh yeah.
All right, I'll catch you guys next week.
Can I ask you Dick, real quick, Dick, the obvious question, and I understand it either way. Did anybody record anything from it?
No, I don't really think so, because
That's okay.
I mean, we were in a room, it was very noisy, the restaurant was open, it was doing business. We had our own room, and everybody sort of took a turn. I opened it up and gave what you might call a sort of kind of eulogy, a little bit, but the facts that came out, the thoughts that came out, especially about them, the friendship, everything from his ear for music to the drugs he took. Yeah, everything was covered, and it was just very, very positively remembered. And so I'm so glad that we did it.
Gosh.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dick, and thank you, Clark, for mentioning that.
Yes, thank you. I'm pleased that I was able to bring you up to date on it. Have a good week, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Clark Schmidt just joined us. Steve, you want to introduce him to the
Hey,
group?
Clark, where are you coming to us from today? We know you bounce around.
Well, I'm actually back in New Hampshire today, in southern New Hampshire, Hollis, Nashua, and I missed you last week because I had to get to Torrington and do family crap. So I, the Connecticut thoughts were there, and driving the back roads that I used to be able to drive on for $1 for an evening and listen to DRC FM certainly resonated. And, Connecticut remains a very, very essential part of my life and broadcast career.
Your radio station in Hamden, can you control that from anywhere?
Yes, I can. I tend to do it from home, but when Dickie Betts passed away last night, I was able to, add a bunch of cuts, in blocks at noon and at 5 and throughout the weekend So it's really magical how this can work, and it's very inexpensive. That's why I keep doing it and don't get divorced. And it's just a special thing having a radio station and a broadcast license. And the problem is that the big guys spent money on other crap, and it cost them. And when you see 50,000 watt AM stations with diddly dip point crap in the ratings, I have a larger cume in New Haven than 850 has in Boston. It's really a shame. And a thing like this just gives me huge inspiration, because all of us from home can do a minute in real time, a minute, and the station can play it 3 times a day, 7 days a week, get 21 shots out of it like a good spot schedule, and all of a sudden you got personality. Mm-hmm. You have people doing that. By the way, Pete would like this. I got a note yesterday from a gentleman. His name slips me because it's morning and I'm getting up there. He used to sell at CCC, and he said the 1220 is a magical religious number. And if you look it up, if you Google it, as John Harper did last night when I told him, it really is some kind of a magical religious number. So I have to call Father Ed Nadolny and let him know.
Hey, Ron, you must remember who that sales guy was.
I'm trying to think. There was a core group at CCC. Ted, I can't remember his last name, but the guy I think you're referring to, Clark, he sold billboards for a long time, outdoor.
Jim
Coulter. Jim Coulter.
Jim Coulter. That's it.
No.
Wasn't Jim Coulter?
I thought it was Jim Coulter.
and
Jim Coulter and Merle. There was a lady named Merle who worked there for decades.
Merle Brockelman.
That's it. Yeah, good for you, Lee. And that core group stayed together for a long, long time. They were very devoted to Cy Dresner, who owned the radio station. And anyway, goes back to the CCC in the 1980s, thereabouts.
And as Clark knows, I owned that station from 86 to 88. Came out with the shirt on my back. Yeah, we called it WNNR, Winter Radio 1220 AM, and it was oldies. And we were actually doing really well. We broke even in our first and second months, and then DRC went oldies, and we died. That was it. The end. We had 1,000 watts, 300 watts at night, and not so good.
Yeah, if we could just, I want to make sure we do this before. Unfortunately, Bob had to leave already, but I noticed on Facebook, it was let's see, it would have been our son Michael's birthday today. He lost his son Michael, and if you get a chance and you're friends with Bob on Facebook, Bart Mazzarella, he uses that name. That's an alias as far as I'm concerned. But if you go on Facebook and look him up, or make sure first of all that you friend him. I'm sure most of us are, but look at the video that's on there about his son. And I mean, Bob has been definitely, and his wife Kaz is going through so much, but he's a warrior, and and we thank him for being here. But yeah, there's a really nice video up there. But yeah, I just saw that. Again, I know I mentioned Greg Simonson earlier, that he joined us. Is there anybody else who's joined us that I missed along?
Lee Gordon.
Oh, there's Lee. Oh yeah, Lee. Where are you coming to us from today?
I'm coming to you from beautiful semi-sunny South Florida.
Hey Lee, Tony Kornheiser did a shout out to you on Monday. I don't know if you heard. I'm sure you heard it.
I did.
That was nice.
I got an email read last week and another one this week. So
yeah. He said long-time listener or regular listener.
Yeah,
Lee Gordon
it was the first time he acknowledged that.
He says Boynton Beach now instead of West Hartford.
But it is amazing when you look at the nice thing about all of this, as I've said before, is the fact that we can all still come together like this and share some of the harder times that we're going through too, because we've all certainly been through them. But yeah, it's interesting to see, just how we never run out of things to say. Is there anybody else that wanted to chime in about anything?
Yeah, listen, I want to mention again, I brought this up last week, and it was strange how this came about, but Tracy is here too. And I was talking about archival material that has been recently found from various sources, anywhere from people's closets to recording studios to warehouses and factories. And strangely enough, there was an article in last Sunday's New York Times about that very subject, about how material that everybody thought was lost has all of a sudden been resurfacing. And Tracy saw the article as well. And you just never know what is out there. And I'm talking about groups probably like the Who. I think they were mentioned in the article, Tracy.
One of the Who albums was there indeed. I mean, basically, people leave it behind in recording studios, and studios are sold and purged, and stuff gets stuck in closets and attics. And a lot of the materials that are out there that are, even Beach Boys materials, they'd given some of the materials to their friends, and Capitol paid a lot of money to get some of that stuff back to be able to remix it. They were giving out 3 and 4 track recordings of the stuff.
And some of these were actually the masters that
Yep.
People said, well, those things are gone. And all of a sudden they surface. There's been a lot of activity like that in the jazz community. But now it seems to be extending into pop music and beyond. So I would think that there's a good number of things that are going to be resurfaced and probably making radio a little more interesting as well, with material that people thought was long gone or never knew existed. And that, I think, would extend to all forms of music.
What I've always found interesting is, I'm younger than you guys, and I grew up on Motown, like most of you folks did, playing it. I listened to you played. And for me to be able to sit here and listen to Ain't No Mountain High Enough by Marvin and Tammy, and I have a copy of the 8-track, multi-track of it, I can sit here and remix what there was. And same with What's Going On. I've got a 16-track multi of it. I mean, for me, I look at my brother Barry, who's also a radio guy and a music guy, who's 70, and I say, the funny thing is, I can sit here and listen to a copy of I'm Gonna Make You Love Me by the Temps and the Supremes in 2023, and it sounds 150% better than it did when I bought it on a styrene 45 in 1969. That, to me, that's the amazing part. And also the amazing part is that a lot of this stuff is showing up in multi-track. I can sit here and remix Let's Stay Together by Al Green from the multi. They're floating around out there.
What you just said is huge. I am very fortunate that there's a stream on 1220 WATX. And I got to tell you, to hear it in the car, in the new speakers, and hear all these oldies with the stereo sound that you never heard originally is just fantastic. By the way, it was David Schultz who said that they believe the 1220 on your dial position is what's considered an angel number. And therefore, people connected with that would want to be associated even more. So I should go and sell the churches.
Yes.
That's wild. Hey, one other thing I wanted to bring up here. Pete, I think you connected us. Did you connect us with John Leslie as far as being?
Yes, and in fact, he'd like to come on week after next.
Perfect. Tell people a little bit about him, if you could.
Yeah, he was a kind of not second string, but he was in the media markets doing mornings and news, and he worked for WNBF in Binghamton. He worked in media markets all over the country, and he's doing this podcast talking about radio, and he interviews people who talk about radio. I've been on Dale Parsons, who was my friend from WNBC, has been on, and he wants to come and join us, not next Friday, but the Friday after, and just kind of be with the group and see what it's like. you need to look at, and you can just Google talking about radio. It'll be the first result that comes up.
Yeah.
It's a Facebook group, and it is also a semi-weekly podcast. And anyone is welcome to be on it if you want to contact him.
Oh yeah, he just had he had Joe Cipriano on with him recently.
Yeah, yes, he did. Yeah.
He had Randy West on too, didn't he?
He did too. Yep. And I was on twice, in fact. So
well, you know, it's interesting because I tripped over it by somebody because years ago I actually thought it would be interesting, and I was talking about even possibly buying some time on DRC to do a show called Talk About Radio, because versus talk radio. But and there's this just like this. The only thing I noticed by listening to his podcast was the element that he's missing is what we have. Because he even said on one of his podcasts, he said, it's amazing. It's like you guys are all connected. And I think that's what's kind of cool about what we do here. But the really neat thing is if you go to Talking About Radio to the podcast, just scroll through the amount of people, and the pieces he's done are great. But the one that he just did recently, I'm sure Pete knows, April 12th, 66 years of 66 NBC, a 90-minute commercial-free special broadcast on Talking Radio About Radio. And I'll just give you this quick. 36 years ago, legendary New York City radio station WNBC gave up its call letters and dial position to WFAN. On the very last day of WNBC, a 90-minute broadcast special aired 66 years of WNBC. After its airing, the program is put into the audio vault of show co-writer and producer Dale Parsons. This iconic look at the complete audio history of WNBC has not been heard on or aired since that time. Now, in a very special presentation, Talking About Radio has been given permission to air 66 years of WNBC in its entirety without commercial interruption. This is fantastic because it goes all the way back. Did it start with Sarnoff?
Before Sarnoff. I mean, it starts in 1922, where it was W2X, W3, or whatever. And then it became WEAF and WRCA and you name it. But it's only been heard up until now on a YouTube recording off the air. So you hear the whistle and it sounds like AM. And, this is in hi-fi sound. Dale had it. Dale lives in Hawaii, in Maui. On Maui, and he's a fascinating guy. He and his wife wrote this, and it aired on the last day of WNBC.
Wow.
It is.
I have a copy of that.
You've got to hear it. If you haven't. No. I'm sorry.
I have a copy of that. Walt Pinto gave me, and see, it's fascinating. It was just literally fascinating.
Well done.
Yeah, well done.
There was also a long program that was run on the last day of WNBC, not the special, but on the of all sorts of bits and pieces. Because I know that Dale was hunting up pieces for like Peter Cans and other people. And I've got it on 6 10.5-inch reels here after all these years. Should digitize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. it really is something. Is because if all of us being radio guys from the very first second, you will be glued to this, just because the audio pieces all the way through it from back then about the concept of the overall concept about what radio was and how it should be like I think like an appliance in everybody's homes, like you would have refrigerators and all this kind of stuff. And just amazing how he talks about that and selling the absolute concept of what radio is. And it's 1922. So that shows you right there, with Franklin Doolittle, with the Doolittle Radio Corporation, how he was in with these guys, a handful of guys back then that were trying to make all that happen. And because of what Ed Bruder's put together and Dave and Bob Marks and stuff, through the years, when you listen to even the historic piece they did, it's just amazing. It blows my mind. But yeah, check it out. And
this is good, like in car listening. If you're alone in the car and maybe your wife doesn't like to listen to radio stuff, it is perfect.
Absolutely.
Just plug it in and listen to it.
Yeah, I find it just fascinating, especially because they've got so many audio pieces on there. Dave is looking. I knew it when Dave. I got to ask you, which Walgreens did you get those sunglasses in? Is it?
I got these online. What are you talking about, Walgreens? Come on.
Do you wear those when you're an auxiliary trooper up here when you're out on the highway?
I used to do that, you know.
Mr. Overson looks very, very show business today.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, as I always say, I'm going to drop this off here just real quick so Dave can edit it and he'll get it out to us in a short time. Please hang on for all of you that have watched and listened to YouTube today for the 19th of April, 2024. We thank you. And we'll be back. We never know who's going to gather, but it's certainly been nice to have all of you guys with us today. Tracy Carmen, Dave Overson, Ted Daliku, Judge Harrigan, Ed Bruder, Bob Craig, Dick Culp, Bob Serkin, Pete Salant, Bob Marks, John Landry, Jim Harrington, Lee Gordon is over there, and we've got Greg Simonson and Clark. There's Clark Schmidt over there. Clark Schmidt, thank you so much, and I love the fact that your passion stays on, and you won't let the old man in, no matter what happens. And I think that's great.
And Steve Parker.
As the Beaver. But no. And seriously, did I Jack Lawrence, did I miss anybody else? I'm following notes and also what's up on my screen. Did I get everybody? Yeah.
You got everybody.
Yeah, it really means a lot. So we will see you, hear you, and hopefully you'll see us and hear us in another week on April. Boy, it's hard to believe. That'll be April 26th of 2024 on Talking Radio. See you guys later.
Your friend has got a lot to share.